Drummer's ADD, man. Can't do anything about it. You're always gonna be. So, the big question is, does it all matter? At all? So I want to start by asking everyone the first question on the sheet. What's technique for? Ideas. I'm not going to force anyone to answer, but
Consistency?
That's a good answer.
come on, McGregor. Come on, McGregor.
Oh no, I'm not. No, I heard about this yesterday. What's technique for? So you don't injure yourself, I suppose, in one way.
Well, that's good.
Good answer so far.
Yeah,
For your dynamics and stuff.
I'll call it health and safety.
Has to be brought in somewhere, isn't it? What was the next one you said?
Dynamics?
For like, yeah,
for
control
dynamics
and stuff.
Let's call it control. Anything related to the second part? To the against or not?
Against?
Well,
I don't like the against part. In the creativity part.
We'll see. So far, nothing related to that. It's all physical. This is what worries me.
No, it wouldn't.
You know, that's the whole point. That's what's worrying me. It seems to be a lot of physical these days.
This is not
So
creative.
I'm agreeing with you, see?
Yep.
For now.
Freedom?
Likes that one.
I do. That is true. Do you want to give some input on what's technique for? Now I'll share mine. What's technique idea? For you personally. That's the whole idea today, and that's why I said bring questions, because, you know, I'm going to ask questions. I don't know everything. If the people, everyone knows me here better than Josh, but what you guys definitely know about me is that I have an allergy of absolutes. You know, it's just golden truth. For me, that's religion, and I'm an atheist, so, you know, there's no Bible saying, like, do this, do that. So, at the end of the day, it is personal, and the only thing that matters is what you do with it. Right? But yeah, anyway, I want to hear your opinion on it. Because I know you have a very technical background, which is why I invited you.
Well, for me, technique is essential for the music that I play. And the music that I want to play, there's just a lot of stuff that I can't play because I don't have the technique to play it. So, generally speaking, technique is you practice technique so that you give yourself more facility on the drum kit, and technique and creativity go hand in hand. Technique is so that you have the facility to execute the ideas that you can create, and also to give yourself more ideas.
That's a good point. I was just going to ask if developing technique, if you guys ever thought about this, if you could develop more ideas and new ideas, or if it's just that to allow the natural translation of what you have in your mind and just play. In fairness, of course, it's both, like you said. You know, we grow as musicians as we learn, so new ideas are developed, and we feel the need again to challenge our technique in order to play, and, you know, actually transfer those ideas to everyone else trying to listen to you. And then for me, it's the ability, or creates the ability to speak fluently. And that's the most important thing for me. When I practice technique, I have a goal in mind, which is to try to play whichever exercise, doesn't really matter, fluently. I don't want to stutter. And I know that it's down there, speaking versus stuttering, and I'm gonna get to that later, but that's what I don't want to do. I don't want to, ultimately, on a stage, I don't want to have the moment. And technique allows me to, when I'm in trouble with my ideas, I'm not in trouble anymore. I'll go back to my bag of tricks and I'll play a double stroke roll, whatever. And that's being smart. But you gotta have the tools. If you're trying to pull off a lick and you're playing live, and it's different, it's a different environment. In the practice room, we're all collaborators, but, it is what it is. To our own standard, but we are. And then we go on stage, and maybe today I'm feeling more like a Lars Ulrich. Is that a bad thing? Or
No, that's fine.
That's
I
fine.
just feel like you turned to me and said something about a metal drummer.
No, he's a metal drummer. I haven't noticed. Especially the drummer part.
He is.
But
yes.
yeah.
Is this just going to be digging into Josh in the metal?
No. He did it. No, that's being self-conscious. I didn't say. I just said Lars Ulrich.
It's a perfect analogy to use.
It is, because I mean there are days that we go on stage and we play, or it doesn't need to be a stage, we just play in front of someone, and I mean it's the wreck syndrome as well. You go to the studio and you just can't play.
Yeah.
I'm warming up. Okay, man, it's recording. Punch, I can't do it. And that's because you're relying on inspiration. You're relying on the perfect environment. You're relying on having your drum set, your pedal, your cymbals. That's bad. And that usually shows a lack of technique, the technical facility to get you out of trouble. Okay, if the drum set is wobbling and just falling apart, it's not easy. But, man, I mean, when you play around, and me and Josh do that, I'm not doing that at the moment, but Josh plays a lot as well. I mean, man, there are some gigs, you go there and the house kit is tough, but you gotta pull it off. And you gotta go back to your first drum kit that wobbled around, and it wasn't easy, but you still developed your stuff, and you still improved and you still progressed, and you gotta go to that mindset of, I'm just gonna play what I know and hope for the best. Sometimes it's not easy, but technique helps. And I felt that many, many, many times. That my technique helped. I can, for example, because of technical development, I can transfer ideas, or kind of transform my ideas that I'm used to play on a 5-piece kit to a 2-piece kit, because you know what, this time is not gonna do it. Put it down. But it's okay. You're still gonna pull it up. You don't need the motion. You have a stronger foundation than that. I am always reminding my students to not learn mechanically. Learn the foundation, learn the concept more than emotion, and then move wherever you want. So that for me is definitely what technique is for. Is to develop that facility of just getting you out of trouble. Plus, it helps you to speak fluently even when you are in the perfect environment. Plus, it helps you to find new ideas as you play. Because some ideas we have them thinking more conceptually, we're just trying to come up with new ideas, which is very good, fair game. Sometimes we just stumble upon them. We're playing technical stuff, and we start risking, we start challenging ourselves to move around and to try, I'm going to play those 2 notes on the bell of my Flemish Beagle. And you go like, this is awesome. Everything else before was horrible. Boring. It doesn't matter, bland, okay, the practice pad, it's useful, but it's not drum set. It's boring, it's bland, it's monotonal, so when you start exploring, sometimes you just find ideas. But you wouldn't if you weren't trying to play the Flemish Beagle. So, So I think, any questions? Ideas, opinions, complaints?
No for me.
The next one is why practice technique. I mean, I think I covered that already, but
Pretty much, yeah.
But there's one thing that I would like to add. I don't know if you want to say something, but about it.
Why?
You're my
technique?
guest, so I'm gonna let you go. Yeah.
Or why practice?
Yeah.
Why practice technique's a strange one because I don't know. I've been practicing my technique, and for as long as I've been getting lessons, and I'm a taught drummer. I'm not a self-taught drummer, and I've just been to university, out for a year. But when I went there, in the first year, I'd come from just doing my grade 8, and there was other people who had come from just no drum lessons whatsoever. And very quickly, as we progressed through every kind of curriculum, so there was the styles lessons and the technique lessons, there was always material that you'd get to, and there'd be just pages of exercises to do for like funk styles lessons or just polymetric drumming or permutations, and you could go into it knowing that you had the technical facility not to just play them instantly as soon as you see them, but you can figure them out and you have the technique to play them. It's just a matter of like working out the mechanics of them. And then you'd see other people and they were just nowhere near doing it. If there was anything with kind of like a paradiddle sticking anywhere, they'd be lost because they're those people that are like, oh, I don't like practicing, I just want to get on the kit and groove. And yeah, so that's why I think why it's important to practice technique. Because if you get to a new idea that you want to progress and practice, you could find that you're just not at the point to practice that idea, but you're way many more steps behind than you actually thought you were to begin with. So every idea eventually comes back to the beginning of just singles and doubles and basic rudiments. So if you're constantly practicing those foundations and getting better control and speed and just better technique with them, then you'll be able to approach most new ideas comfortably and from a better standpoint than if you just have no technical foundation whatsoever. That's me.
It's all true. There's another side of the coin though, which is a lot of people practice technique, and this is why we see a lot of technical drummers out there that we just, the only reaction that they get out of me is yawn. That's it. And that's why a lot of people have issues with drumline players. They do. They go like,
Where's the groove?
Where's the groove?
Which is,
I love drumline stuff, as you all know, but my thing is, I get it. So when people go like, where's the groove? Guys are just like vomiting rudiments. I love it. That's a personal thing. Because, I have a background with rudimental playing. But, I also, during especially my learning career, when I was learning for real and investing a lot of time and money on my education, I realized that a lot of my teachers, the way they approached rudiments, they all knew their rudiments, but it was very different. For example, one of my teachers was always insisting on making sure that you correct your stick heights, making sure that you know at least your 4 fundamental strokes. Downstrokes, upstrokes, step strokes, and full strokes. Always make sure, from having lessons with Klaus Hessler, I can tell you that he's obsessed with the molar technique. He's not gonna let you play a vertical stroke. Not in front of him. It's gonna be all like, no. But first. He's always telling you that. You wanna play an accent? That's what you do. This doesn't exist anymore. That's Klaus Hessler. You learn from Jim Chapin, who was obsessed with that. Who learned from Stanford Mobile. So, but it's very different. Took lessons from Michael Lauren, he was one of the co-founders of the Drummers Collective in New York. Michael is all, but there's no molar for him. It's New York style. Smack, destroy, go. It is. He's a typical New York player. goes into a club this size and just beats the hell out of the drums. And doesn't apologize by the end of it. You know, where's my money? Let's go home. And I've known Michael for many years. I've seen him doing this. You know? And it's different, the approach. You know, you have on one hand like a guy like Klaus, it's all about the subtlety of the motion to make it as circular as possible, zero effort, that kind of stuff that we know as we study the Moeller technique or the Gladstone technique and all that stuff, even though they're different. They have one thing in common. It's a sound that you're going for. That's why people say like the New York sound. Right? You have the New York sound, you have the LA sound. It's very different. In the same county. You go from New York to, let's say that you spend a year doing recording sessions in New York. You're really busy, doing your thing. You go to LA. Let's try LA, let's go to Hollywood. You're not gonna get hired. They will not have the New York guy playing in an LA studio. Not because it's from New York, because it brings the New York sound with it. Which is that, you know, almost like the mic is in some other room. I don't know what's up with those guys, but you know what I mean? In LA, it's all about this. An example. Look at the difference of J.R. Robinson, a great session drummer, based in LA, always recorded in LA, and Steve Gadd, New York. Or Tony Williams, New York. And Vinny Colaiuta, New York. You know, that's like, again, you know, destroy. I saw a show, you guys gotta watch this show, with Jeff Beck and Vinny Colaiuta on the drums, at the Baked Potato, which is a bar in LA. It's very small. It's a small live music venue. It's a legendary, you know, venue, but it's quite small. Vinny's playing with earplugs. Because he's ready to go, man. It's incredible. But again, it's the New York thing, you know, they don't apologize. Vinny playing double stroke rolls, all the strokes come from here. No, it's like, that's how he plays doubles, and he plays a lot of them. If you watch Stephen Moore playing doubles, they're all from there. What was the difference? You know, it's doubles is doubles, right, left, left. The difference is the sound they're going for. And that's going back to why practice technique, because you're chasing the sound. But the next, how to practice technique. That's when everything changes. Because when you're going for, you know, just that kind of big, massive sound, that's where you gotta practice. You can't sit down. Can I see your stick? Sorry. If you want to play doubles a la Vinny Colaiuta, which I don't, you can't go home and do this. The whole pinky's out kind of crap. But if you are going for the standard move kind of sound, that's not going to do it as a goal. But what I say is practice everything. Because one thing that I know for a fact is we change our minds as we grow. You know, today you're really into Mark Julian, and tomorrow you're really into, I don't know, give me a name of metal drummer. I don't know my name.
Thomas Hake.
Sure. That guy. You know?
Goddamn.
Meshuggah.
Alright. That's how you pronounce his name.
No,
That's the band.
That's the band.
Meshuggah, yeah.
Thomas Hake.
I always thought he was Hawk.
Hawk.
Yeah. I don't know.
Another bird. That's H-A-W-K.
Sorry. Bilingual. One lingual. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's the same exercise. It's the same mechanical exercise, but the way you're going to approach it is always, even if unconsciously, after a sound, based on what you listen to. When you stop practicing and you get on the buzz and put your, what are you listening to? Right? If you're listening to Meshuggah or whatever, you know, some, even Vinny Colaiuta, who doesn't, well, he did play metal, but, then your sound reference is going to be big. But then you also see Vinny playing with Sting, and that's why Vinny is such a great drummer. He's a chameleon. He plays everything in every single way with every single texture you can imagine. But that's Vinny. He's something else. Most drummers have, a range that they can kind of explore different textures and different sounds. But yeah, I mean, not everyone can be a Vinny Colaiuta. Because, I mean, in the same year, the guy recorded an album with Megadeth and Anastasia and Sting, actually. These are the big ones, and he did a lot of all the session stuff, because that's what he does, but these were the big records of 1 year. I think it was 2003 or 4. It was like, who does this? Megadeth, Sting, and Anastasia in the same year. It's hard. It's hard to be that versatile, but that's a lot of practice as well. And trying to practice things, trying to get different sounds from the same exercise. Doubles, it can be singles, you can practice your singles nice and quiet, you can just try to bash them away. But you gotta get in there and struggle with the technical obstacles that you're gonna find to produce those different sounds. I was talking about Stanton Moore earlier, or Zigaboo modulus, to New Orleans funk drums. Zigaboo changed the whole spectrum of funk drumming with his doubles that are more like press rolls, but they're really not. But if you don't do it that way, it doesn't sound like New Orleans funk drumming. Period. End of story. You go there, it's like, it's nothing, That's how he plays it, And he uses, it's all about the snare. On a pad, it's hard to get that texture because you don't have the snare wires. But you know what I mean? Like the doubles are not doubles. They're just press strokes. Which is very interesting. It's a good idea to sit down and try to get it. Even if you're already like killing your doubles and you play your rolls and 11s and 9s and whatever, at some point you gotta sit down and work for a sound. I don't care about sound when I'm trying to learn how to do that. It doesn't really matter. Just try to get them as even as possible. That's the one sound that you're going for. But after that, okay, you got it. Don't tick the box yet, man. You know what I mean? Like, now start working on what do you want to do with it. And that's when, like I said, don't take anything for granted, in the sense of it's important to understand that you are bound to change your mind, style-wise, or just like you're gonna change sticks. One day you're gonna buy a metal snare drum instead of the poplar one that you had at home, your first kid. And everything's gonna change again. And you need to be aware of that. So the how to practice technique for me, it's, of course, you gotta be strict. It's tough. It's tough to practice technique. It's not fun in the beginning, especially in the beginning, man. It's not fun. It's fun when you have your own, like, already rudimental rams and stuff like that going on. You can just sit down for 10 minutes. But, it's not fun if you can't do it. And you're just trying to flam, and that's all you can do with flams. Flams are really hard, by the way, so, ultimately, it all comes down to setting a goal. And that goal can be, I want to sound like someone, doesn't matter. It can be more conceptual, it can be Big Brother, it can be more, when I'm playing, I want to be able to play a role, just because I want to. That was one of my things. I wanted to be able to be playing a group. I heard that somewhere. I didn't really connect that or attach that to someone specifically, but I heard that somewhere. I like the sound. I remember listening to like Vinny, like Tony Williams, like Alvin Jones, and they would just suddenly play a role. But the Rich just suddenly play a role within the group. And I always enjoyed it. It didn't sound too drumliney to me, so it was like, okay, I can actually use this. I like drumline stuff, but I'm not going to do it. So that was out of the question. I didn't want to do drumline stuff. It wouldn't fit anything in my life. There was no drum lines where I come from, so, let's just like it, because I'm not going to try to believe that I'm going to do it one day. It's not going to happen. But I like that rudimental application. So I started working on my roles. But with that in mind, that I wanted to apply them within groups, so I was always trying to play one bar groups and like 5-stroke rolls, stuff like that. And I'm trying to. And that takes a lot of discipline. Just sit down, and my rule is one bar group, one bar 5-stroke roll. Or a half bar group, 5-stroke rolls. Or the last beat is a 5-stroke roll. So you can just start condensing your ideas. That takes discipline, because a lot of people sit down, I'm going to practice my 5-stroke rolls. Try it one time and they're already playing the drum solo. That's when it really makes a difference. Because ultimately the result is going to be different for me or for Josh or for everyone here, but the method, come on. You gotta do it. You gotta grind. That's the thing. You gotta do it. It's not gonna happen if you don't do it. Watching a lot of YouTube lessons and Drum U and Mike Johnson's doesn't do anything. That's just inspiration. But then, transpiration is necessary. What's your take on
it? On the how to practice technique one. I'm not entirely sure what to add to that in terms of how to practice technique. I guess in how to practice, directly in terms of how you would go about practicing it in a very disciplined manner is like the main thing that I could say. Before, just like the last thing you were saying, giving yourself certain exercises, making sure you stick to them, and then not end up playing a drum solo. That's one of the main things. The main tips to do when it comes to how to actually practice is to make sure that you're disciplined, because it's no good if you have a practice diary saying, okay, I'm going to do 20 minutes of this and 20 minutes of that, and put it in and write it every single week if you're only doing 5 seconds of it and then just, losing concentration and playing something completely different, or just grooving along to your favorite song and then going, oh, time's up. Yeah, that was a good practice. I don't even know what else to say on how to practice.
No, but I definitely, I just want to add something to that. Because I see so many people, and I have a lot of people coming here just to practice, because I have the practice room, available. And I have drummers that come here to practice that are not my students, and I hear them practicing. Man, sometimes I just feel like opening the door and be like, can you please just stay on one idea? You booked an hour and you're trying to, play solos. And then I call that the ego exercise. You play a 5-stroke roll. That sucked. I'm gonna play singles because I can do them. Those are the ego. I've been there, I sit down. I'm gonna try to move the bass into the E. Screw the E, because I can't do it. Or, and this is something that it's very important for you guys to remind ourselves when we're practicing and struggling. We only skip things because we are uncomfortable with them. It's not because we get out of focus. It is, but it's really not. We are making an unconscious decision of skipping that. It's not like we are stupid and skip things or stop practicing something because we oh, that sucked, so I'm not going to do it. We're not that stupid. But unconsciously we choose to not do it anymore because of our ego. Your ego and your pride is going to tell you there's stuff that you can do. Ego. Let's play, whatever you're good at. I'm gonna go back to my. I can do that. That's you massaging your ego. Stop doing that right now. I was having this conversation with you the other day.
Yeah.
If your comfort tempo is 70, stop playing at 70.
Yeah.
Right now. If your comfort tempo is 160, go back to 30. See what happens. 168. No, I said 160, 158. See what happens. You'll be surprised. Sometimes that's the one that throws you off. Don't do anything that is comfortable. That's not practice. That's stage time. And it's important to when you're practicing. And of course, it says how to practice technique, but this can be, and we're gonna go through all the items again for creativity. That's the whole point.
That's one point about, in terms of how to practice. One sheet of exercises, if it's something like accent patterns, like shifting an accent through a pattern. If it's with your right hand, you'll feel comfortable at one tempo, and then all of a sudden you start using your left hand, either leading with it or just using the right and using your left. And you'll realize that you'll have to slow it down, and because you actually realize that, you all of a sudden panic because slowing down kind of feels like moving backwards. Yeah, you don't want to admit that actually this all needs to be taken down a notch, but that should be the thing that you were excited to do. It doesn't feel like it because all the players you want to sound like are really fast. But then once you slow it down and you feel comfortable with it, slower stuff played more accurately and more consistently can sound faster than somebody playing at a higher tempo just really sloppily.
Yeah, definitely agree. And it's definitely not pleasant to listen to sloppy stuff. And we know, like, when we sit down, come on. And here's a big one. Who never sat down behind the drum, start practicing, and go for the fastest they can do, and never thought this was hard? We are all lying to ourselves when we actually believe that we're going to pull it off. And this is really important to understand. When you sit down, and then, like, on one side we have to get out of the comfort zone, but don't lie to yourself. Because that's the other thing. You just like reach for the stars. You might come on. That I don't want to swear, but it's BS. And because it is, you sit down and you try. Your shoulders are about to collapse. You're about to have a stroke, and that's cool. That's super cool. You nailed it. Come on. And that's what a lot of people do. That I go like. I'm watching these people and I can see that they are trying to pull off the lick they learned last week. It's just horrible. It's horrible. There's no other way of saying it. It's just horrible. It's stress. It's choked. It doesn't mean, I'm not even saying that it's out of time or whatever, but it's just, no, it's not even close to be there. And it's all about mastering what you're trying to learn. Right? So that's how you practice technique. You practice technique. Man, you gotta set up your own boot camp. When you sit down and go in front of the pad and you start practicing your singles. Watch what you're doing. I see a lot of people practicing. Whoops, something happened down there. Staring at everything but the sticks or the hands. Everything. Like, a little baby. As soon as we stop practicing, we're all like grown-ups again. Come on, what's up with that? No, pay attention to what you're doing because you're going to find a lot of stuff. And that's how you fix stuff. So, for me, that's how you practice technique. You got to always remind yourselves of what's the sound you're going for. You always should have your criteria list in front of you. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it does matter, but it can be a lot of stuff. Sting heights. Let's even say that we're practicing dynamic class, just like stamina, just to get in there. And to try to develop speed, control. Sting heights, motion, grip, follow through, what's the posture? Go through as you play. Don't play and be like, I think that was good, I think your perception of what you just did is it's gonna be off. For sure. Guaranteed. You know what I mean? And I see a lot of people, I don't want to name names, looking at the walls while they play singles. And that's a problem. Because then you don't see this. Look, we all make mistakes. I never met one drummer that sat down, what's this? Sticks? And then they sit very beautifully and just play, go ahead. Never saw it. Never will. Pretty sure. You know, everyone has inconsistencies. Like, not everyone, and that's it's a very small number of people who are ambidextrous, for example. So we struggle with that. It's normal. But we gotta fight. We gotta challenge ourselves to fix it. And that's by, like you said, it's like being disciplined and just don't mess around. There's no other way. Alright. Shall we move on? Oh, the next one. That's pretty good.
Yes. Just,
that's it?
yeah, move on.
Expand, please.
Does technique really matter? I'd say.
Of course, my answer is yes as well. Come on.
Yeah.
Just made a 20-minute speech on how to practice technique.
I think the only reason people actually have for saying technique doesn't matter, or the only
I don't know what you're going to say, and I agree.
Do you really know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm saying. The only excuse I think people have for saying technique doesn't matter is that they don't want to practice it.
I agree.
Right. Was that it?
Yeah. Or
yeah.
they suck.
Or that, they don't want to admit that that's something that
it's
they
again,
suck at.
all comes down to two things here that are very important: ego and pride.
Mm.
And I always say, let me just say this real quick. I always say this to my students: when I'm teaching, my ego is out the door. When you're practicing, you should do the same. Because one thing, like, I leave I probably leave my ego at home, and I just come here, reminding myself that I'm here to help students, not to make clones. That's what ego does, you know. I start like, you're not sounding like me. What's wrong with you? Oh, I've known drum teachers like this. Believe me. Your hands don't look like mine. You must be retarded.
You talk like that to me all the time.
You know, I think that would be my parents' fault, not mine. You know, like, come on. Sorry, carry on.
What was I going to say? Yeah. In regards to technique mattering, there are drummers who have like poor technique, or it's not like the recommended technique. It's not like full molar strokes. People keep mentioning Steve Gadd as a name for somebody who has bad technique, but gets a lot of gigs and is a very successful drummer. Therefore, because he hasn't obviously sat there and practiced molar or just focusing on his technique therefore, you don't have to.
But it's funny, with Steve Gadd, because Steve Gadd is a good example, actually. Steve Gadd's technique is actually very awkward. He's right. He plays traditional grip, but he's always playing like this. You know, one thing that I've done a lot, and I still do, is I analyze drummers that I enjoy listening to. I analyze their technique, but not only from the wrist forward, like everything. Shoulders position, back, do they slouch, do they not slouch, do they kind of lean towards the hi-hat, is it the floor tone? And Steve Gadd is all about this. He plays like this, literally. He has his He has the snare angled this way. But all his stuff is 110% rhythms. Everything he plays. And he was a snare drummer, first and foremost. And then a drum kit player, only later. And it's fun. You look, do you know a guy called John Macaluso?
Not playing it now.
It's like he's an American drummer who plays a lot of prog music and stuff like that. When I never saw him playing, but I knew a lot, well, I have now, but to this point, never saw him playing. Never went on YouTube to look him up or anything. But I listened to a lot of his records and stuff like that. Amazing drumming. You'll be like, what? This is awesome. one day I went on YouTube, and this was an eye-opening moment for me actually, because immediately my brain said, "This guy sucks." Exactly. His technique was like horrible. You don't even understand. It was horrible. But at the same time, the other voice was like, "Wait a second, what are you doing, man? You're listening to music with your eyes, like chill, man. You know, like you always loved this guy, and now because he's all weird, he's very weird. The way he moves is very weird. But then you listen to it, even while you're watching, you're like, it's amazing, it's brilliant. All the ideas are amazing, the dynamics are all there. And this is a guy with a strong academic background. Went to I forgot the school. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like he has everything but the looks. So it made me wonder, and that was a turning moment for me actually. Made me wonder, like, technique. Does he have it? Yeah, of course he has it. Look, just listen. It's all there. A lot of ghost note stuff. Matt Garska, everyone loves Matt Garska. Have you seen how he plays the snare? Hold on to that left stick, man. And then it's a million ghost notes. What the hell is going on with that? You know what I mean? Like, it just smacks the hell out of that snare. And then at the same time, after that, you hear, which is all the ghost notes that he's playing. Wait a second, you know, like, Tony Royster, genius drummer, stick on the snare all the time. Aaron Spears. You know what I mean? Like, then you listen to them playing, like, yeah, they have technique. You know? If you wanna, okay, an example of someone who doesn't have technique, Lars. Lars Ulrich. Why? The sound sucks. End of story. Mike Portman. Sound sucks. Does he have good ideas? Yeah. Not that many, actually. People don't shoot anyway, but it is. But the sound sucks. And ultimately, that's what matters. And that's what technique is, ultimately. Is, like we said in the beginning, you know, it's gonna build that, it's gonna facilitate the sound that you're going for. These two, I could go on with the list, but
I think with technique is that it's not, well, there is a Mahler technique that kind of is just the one thing and the one way that you should move, but everybody, when building their own technique, is gonna eventually have, like, some differences in their playing, because we're all individual humans, and we're all not gonna have exactly the same practice.
Freddie Gruber would disagree with you when it comes to the Mahler.
Yeah.
100%. Freddie Gruber was he's passed now, but was a drum educator based in New York who taught Dave Wacko, Peter Erskine, Neil Peart, this goes on and on. And at the same time, there was Jim Chapin. There are two guys that were the same age, more or less. They both were known for the Mahler technique, the ability to teach the Mahler technique properly. You watch Freddie, you watch Jim, man, it looks very different. It might be it gets confusing if you're trying to follow those two at the same time. But Jim learned from Stanford Mahler. Freddie didn't, but I don't know.
So
he would disagree.
He disagreed that everyone's technique would look similar if they were using Mahler.
He had a different approach to it, yeah. Because the Mahler is a concept more than emotion. That's again, it all goes down to this, right? I'm not trying to take over, sorry, but
using Mahler because it's a set, the same four movements, and it's something that you'll have to constantly look at. If you're going heavily down the Mahler route, then yeah, it would look similar. But not everybody does go 100% Mahler. I haven't gone. I did practice Mahler, but when I play, it's more of a verbal thing. It's not like second opinion from somebody who's actually seen me play. It's not fully flowing. It's more kind of a vertical thing. Or the drummers that I kind of try and not copy full on, but
Emulate.
yeah. I seem to be leaning less towards Mola and more vertical strokes, and Upsastri is a drummer that I'm watching a lot of recently, and all of his stuff is just different velocity, but everything's very much like that. There's very little flowing, because he's one of the very technical, like modern metal, genty kind of musicians where everything has to be accurate. So I think everyone has different influences to their technique, which will shape the way they play. But yeah, if you're going for just traditional Mola thing, then it's probably going to look the same between two people. But I don't think everybody's obviously in this room is going to do that as well.
Well, I don't want to go into the Mola, but because that's not the point of it. It's 3 motions, by the way, not 4.
Four. Full, down, tap.
Oh, that's not the Mola.
Oh, that's not Mola.
That's the Gladstone.
Oh, my God.
The Mola is 3 motions, but conceptually is 1 motion. 1 motion. No, the down, up, and taps, full stroke. That's the Gladstone method. Stanford Mola, the only thing he did, just a quick background on what the Mola is, historical background. The only thing he did, Stanford Mola, was to document what snare drummers, military snare drummers were already doing. The only thing he did was to write it down. He didn't create anything right there. It's been around for many, many years. And it's the natural motion that you would do if you unlock your full arm. So, your whole arm. So basically, when we play only wrist strokes, we're not using arm. It moves, but it's just a reaction. It does not get involved in the motion. When you use the molar, motion starts there. So it's 1 motion actually, conceptually. Full molar, half. You have to diminish it for accent. But if you break it down, it's 3 motions. By the way, I'll just say no. So you have the first position, second, third, first. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's 1.
So sticking a tap in there kind of makes it faster.
And that, when you do the triplet molar exercise, you're basically just trying to go through the checkpoints of the motion. So it's like the first one. When you go for the second one, you tap, tap. It's the same with or without those taps in it. Just a sound reference to your emotion. That's why the triplet molar exercise is so fun. It's the same. With, again. Skip one. It's the same motion, right? Anyway, that's not what this is about. Alright, what do we have next? Does it really matter? Yes, of course it matters. That's a stupid question. Who wrote this? Okay, speaking versus stuttering. I talked a little bit about that before, so if you wanna, I'll let you speak, man. Sorry.
Speaking versus stuttering.
Yeah, I don't stutter, I speak. Technique-wise. And now we're starting to get into the creative side of things, so it's a good time to link things together.
If you practice technique mechanically, and then you try and make sure that every note's perfectly accurate, and then instead of like getting a constant flow to it, then it's going to sound like it's very juttering out. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I practice would sound, there's still a flow to it, but there's definitely a way to play with the groove of a song and with motion that where it all flows, and then it's clear to when you're listening to somebody whether something's flowing or whether it's not. And I think that's the difference between speaking and stuttering.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the ability to, when you're trying, it's okay to be thoughtful, by the way. So the best thing to do when it comes to understanding how to go about exploring your technique, and I'm going to start linking this to creativity and ideas. It's a language, right? So to be thoughtful, that's a great skill. In other words, on the drums, it means you don't want to just shout at people. You don't want to just vomit everything you know onto people. I mean, you really don't. I don't care what you think right now, but you don't. I'm not going to be there to listen to it. You know, if you're just telling me like, you know what, this started with a big bang. Oh, God, no. Just something in context, please. And when you practice your technique properly, what happens is that those ideas, every now and then, they will need a break. The creative ideas, the super cool licks, and the more artistic approach to drumming. So, I don't know, think Elvin Jones. If you never saw Elvin playing, go for it. Elvin Jones was a guy that his ideas just overlapped and overlapped and overlapped. It would never stop. It was like a train coming at you. But then at the end of the day, Tony Williams was also great with that. But he would never feel like he was stop, go, stop, go. That's what I call stuttering behind the drums, you know? Because you... Bing! Maybe the technique behind it is amazing, but, you know, on each one of those licks, it doesn't sound like anything. You know, it just licks. You know, like, someone once told me that the drum solo is not a bunch of drum fills. A lot of people think of drum solo that way. Drum fill number 2, drum fill number 3, repeat, number 4. And just like, okay, you're going through the book. Good for you. So, to practice technique allows you to connect ideas much better. And allows you to build the stamina as well to repeat ideas. It's not just a burst of inspiration. You actually can play it again and again and again. It sounds the same. It's building up, and you have the dynamic range. And so yeah, definitely for me that's the essential thing about having some sort of technical facilities, that you're going to be able to communicate properly. But then, of course, and now starting to talk about how to be creative, you need to be following some sort of musical idea, right? So let's say that, okay, your technique's fine, but you can't communicate. And a lot of people, like, when it comes to drum solos, for example, what they complain the most when they come to me and ask, like, can really play drum solo? You know, I try, my bandmates want me to, but I can't. It just doesn't sound good. I was there. I couldn't play solo. I just couldn't. And when I ask why, so what's up? What do you feel like? Do you feel like, I don't know. There can be many reasons, so I always ask why. I don't assume why. And a lot of the times, the answer is always, I don't have enough ideas. You only need one. More than one idea is already one idea too much. You only need one idea, but what you do need is the ability to expand. It's like someone is talking to you, it keeps changing subject. At some point you're just zoning out. This guy is all over the place, man. So, you know what I mean? Like, you need to stay on track. What are you talking about? You can be like, talking about creativity, and then suddenly, what do you think of the serious situation? Never mind, what do you think of lattices? Are you into lattice? Exactly.
Do you say lettuce or lattice?
Lattice.
Okay. I do know this. But that is
Your face said it all. That's my face when I'm watching drum solos that made no sense. What? You know?
You thinking what? Lettuce? Solos also, because it's the one time where you Also, drum solos seem to be the only solo where every other person in the band feels like they need to stop, and it just needs to be the drummer. Even though if it was a guitar solo and the drummer just all of a sudden stopped, everyone would be.
Everyone would look at you.
Yeah, everyone would that's not. Doesn't come across that way at all. Just out there instantly. There's no progression of an idea or like any kind of path that you follow with the solo, any like ebb and flow. It's just, you just think, a lot of it's panic as well. You just kind of go, fast now. Otherwise it'll just not be worth listening to, which...
But that panic, but that's a good point, because you're saying like, I need to do something impressive. And that's exactly the problem. We're not listening to what we're playing. We're just obsessed or worried about the idea of I need to impress. You gotta impress way more if you just sit down and play, man. And then of course you have the technical abilities to play the impressive stuff within it. You know, it happens naturally, you know.
Hate to say the cliche, but less is more.
Well, yeah, I get it.
And sometimes, yeah.
In terms of ideas, yeah. In terms of, but then the sky is the limit. So you can turn that into more, a lot, everything. I don't know, like trying to think of an example for you guys to study, drum solo wise. If you watch, don't want to give you any modern stuff examples because everyone knows Benny Grab.
That's the
but
main guy.
Papa Joe Jones. If you watch Papa Joe Jones playing the Caravan drum solo, come on, man, it's a simple idea what he's doing, and it's amazing. It's one of the most beautiful drum solos you will ever hear, ever. You know what?
That's like a lot of them, though, isn't it? Sort of like some of the drummers, like Papa Joe Jones and stuff. They all sort of the ideas are. It's like Buddy Richie's singles, like what he could do with his left hand, sort of the stuff that.
Yeah, no, but that's the technical, like Vinny is doubles and flams, but that's the technical tools that we just rely on. But when I say idea, I literally mean a musical idea. So let me just, instead of talking about it, let me show you. The rhythms are already repeating. heavy metal for you. Boom. By himself. That's all. You know what I mean? There's obviously a musical idea following all that madness. And even the freedom of his motions only show that. He knows exactly when he's going to hit that floor top. Boom! Well, he plays a million other notes between. I rest my case. I have more. Right, so.
Is that why you have an infinite supply of those sheets?
So when it comes
For my
to
dramatic
like,
moment.
throw
Yeah.
it away.
So which
Papa,
one?
Papa Joe Jones explained the next one.
Think sound first and technique.
No, how to be creative and technical.
Oh, I thought we were just already on that.
Well, yeah, we were
Alright.
without announcing the topic.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, is there any questions? How to be creative and technical? Everything is kind of interlaced, right?
Yeah. I suppose would it be a case of, in terms of getting the technique side into your creativity, getting a certain skill set to learn how to improvise once you're on a kit? So would you say that your technique foundation is a solid key to getting that improvisation and freedom in the kit?
Yeah. Listen, if you're playing the piano, you can't really play a solo if you don't know scales. It's just not gonna happen. So it's not any different when it comes to the drums. Rudiments are our scales, and we all agree on that. And if you wanna, and not only improvise, but just listen to the music that you're playing. Because when you're too focused on how will I mechanically pull it off, you can't listen. You can't hear it. You can't set yourself, apart from you and have like this third person experience. And just the audience being the second, of course. That's always the case. And just experience what's happening within your playing. Because when you are able to do that, to have that kind of freedom, that kind of takes you away from the drums and just listen to what you're playing, then you can take that to anywhere you want, musically speaking, in the moment. I'm not talking about videotaping yourself. That's a tool. But then you go home, you watch back to what you did. You're like, I could have done this, could have done that. But that's for next time.
So do you mean sort of like practicing your technique?
So
If
much.
you started mechanically but moved it so that you practiced it contextually.
You always practice mechanically at first.
Yeah.
Always.
But you have to put it into context to be able to use it.
And practice
in creative
and practice
ideas.
it so much, then you can afford to just.
Yeah.
Practice your technique until you just don't need to think about technique. It just flows. The thing with being creative and technical is because it says technique versus creativity in the top.
I was just teasing.
And
We were just teasing.
what do you mean?
Well, it's never versus.
I know, but
You know?
because what I'm getting at is because technique is something that's practiced. Creativity almost seems like it's something that you can't practice, but which is not the case. I guess the way to be creative and technical is to practice creativity. Like there's if you take technical exercises, singles and doubles, and rudiments from the practice pad, it's never really a good idea to just go straight from the practice pad. I'm like, okay, I've only ever played on a practice pad. Now I'm going to go play on a kit and play a show. Like that's not going to work very well. You have to take what you practice technically and try and orchestrate that in a creative manner around the kit. But it's something that you can practice, because if you just have like 4 bars of single stroke roll, 16th notes, you just think, okay, where can I actually put these? Where can I put these notes? Do I like put them in like an inverted sticking, like first and last note on the snare, and then go between the toms? Just practicing yeah, how to be creative with the technique that you have is, you know, that's going to help you to be more creative because you've actually played the thing that you're about to, well, that you're trying to execute. Yeah. That's something I would say. Practice orchestrating, practice being creative.
That's I believe that in order to be creative, this is a tough subject because now I'm always very conscious of not be confused or having my opinions to be confused with the way to go. So I'm always very careful of how I say certain things, especially when it comes to creativity and just musicality in general. But I believe, and this is a very personal opinion, that one should follow a sound, some sort of, and I said that, and I was talking about textures on the drum set, but this time I'm talking about something a bit more spatial, a bit more abstract, if you will. But one exercise that I challenge you all to practice at home in front of your drum sets is think of a sound. Can be a drum lick, can be a melody, doesn't need necessarily to sound very drum-like. But think of it and then try to play it. And then break it down technically if you need to. If you feel like, oh, okay, it's not as easy, or if you find that like, okay, your technique has some sort of hole that is not allowing you to play that sound, okay, break it down technically. What's the mechanics behind this lick? But that's why I wrote think sound first, then technique. To develop that ability to really transfer what you have in your head to the drums, you need to listen to that first. Because we sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes we tend to hope that a good idea is going to hit us on the face. Like we just play. The problem is we're not listening. Sometimes you already did. You just played a great idea and you just moved past it. And now you're playing a million bad ideas. You forgot about that one. And maybe you played that one just out of instinct. You had in you, came out, and then you're like, no, more. You're just trying to, play. I would definitely challenge you guys to try to do that. Think of something, a drum beat, a drum lick, whatever, and then try to play it and see what happens. It's like almost like listening to a record and trying to play it, But it's not someone else, it's you. Doesn't get more original than that. That's my take on it. Developing ideas. I vocalize a lot of what I do. Not only while I play, but just randomly. Amateur beatboxing. It is. I do that a lot. But I tend to kind of memorize certain ideas, and then I sit down and I try to play them. Every now and then I'm like, okay, this is not easy. How the hell did I sing this? Like, this is just weird. But I do that a lot. I always did. I remember coming from the second music school that I attended. I would have to walk like for quite a long time to get home. And this was, how old are you?
12.
Yeah, exactly. This was 12 years ago. 13 years ago, actually. Getting old. I was walking home, and because I was coming from music school, I was all like, musical. And all the way home, like walking for like an hour, I was just like singing these beats with my voice, and then I would come home, because I had my drum studio at home as well, where I could practice, immediately sit down, not even say hi, mom, dad, just go straight to the garage and just sit down like, how do I play that? So many times. I just got addicted to that. And it was very natural. Nobody told me to do that, but it was just something that it looked perfectly normal. I should do that. You know, I just try to come up with new ideas. And I had that long walk home. Can't really play. I can't imagine stuff. It's the whole phantom practice concept, right? When you practice just using vocalization and visualization. Just imaginary practicing. You know, that's called phantom practice. It works. Everyone felt like you're trying to play something and then you take a break, you go back and suddenly it's awesome. It's there. What happened? I literally stopped practicing. It's working on it. It's working on the motions, it's organizing the ideas, it's organizing the information that needs to be sent and when. And then you sit down, oh, I got it. Okay. You know?
JP Bouvet mentioned something interesting about practicing that way. He said, like, take 3 subjects, 20 minutes each, do an hour, those 3 subjects, and then take a break, come back and do an hour on them again in that order, and just see how much further you are just by not playing them for a while. And apparently it's a good cognitive way of teaching yourself.
It definitely is. And I felt many times that whenever I couldn't practice for a long period of time, as in like weeks, I would come back to the drums and I would be playing better. Lose a little bit of speed, probably lose a bit of control over if I want to go extreme. But my overall playing was much more organized. Because sometimes we kind of clog the system a little bit with information. It's too much clutter. We're trying to learn everything. And then nothing comes out. It's just stuck, right? Sometimes a break is good for that. Kind of recycles everything and you start choosing. Okay, when you come back after a couple of weeks and you start playing, you know, you decide, okay, I'm going to try to play what I was playing last time, 2 weeks ago. Whatever you just chose, there's a reason why you chose that. You chose that exercise specifically because you spent those 2 weeks thinking about that guy, not the other 20 that you've been working on. So yeah, hold on to it. It spoke to you, so yeah, it's yours now. Because that's how it works. And we learn a lot of stuff, but we only use so much. And that's okay. Vinny uses doubles and flams. You know? And he learned all the 40, I'm positive. Doubles and flams. No hybrid weird stuff. Doubles and flams. He just uses them a lot. Why flams? Because he likes them. It's that simple. I don't know. Trying to think of another example of a drummer that uses like one thing, or solistically speaking. I know Tony was all about singles. Billy Cobham is all about singles. Dennis Chambers is all about singles. And of course I know the other rudiments. It's not like rudiment 1. Well, I'm good to go. You know, that does it for me. No, it's just what do you choose. I use a lot of doubles. Rarely use any singles.
I'm totally single in terms of my playing. Like, that sounded weird when I said that. But yeah, I love singles. That's just my thing.
Oh, we're talking about drumming. Oh.
Yes, we're talking about drumming.
In that case, I'm all about paradiddles. No, actually, it's true. But no, doubles and paradiddles but that's why. Yes. Yeah. But that's why I'm so into paradiddle permutations and just to come up with linear patterns. I use the paradiddle skeletons and I kind of morph the paradiddle. Because one thing that I just need to say this, even though this is not a lesson on technique today, but stickings are not rhythms. It's very important to memorize. We tend to think that paradiddles, 16th notes. Not at all. So I like to explore all that stuff, you know, trying to play the same stickings in as many subdivisions as I can. But I have my go-to subdivisions. For example, I think that's why I fell in love with the Chaffee system, which is based off singles and doubles. But real quick, it's just a system that thinks of stickings as in a certain number of notes. So it's applied directly into subdivisions or odd groupings of notes. Or not necessarily odd, just groupings of notes. So, for example, in the Chaffee system, 5A is a sticking that is 5 notes long, and the A stands for there's one set of doubles. But a 5B is already going to be different. 5B is an invertible 5-stroke roll. And I love that system immediately because my hands felt not comfortable because some stickings are tricky, but I don't know, it made sense. Singles and doubles, you know what I mean? Like, it just made sense, which is the reason why the paradiddle exists. And I always loved the paradiddle, so. I like flams as well.
Everyone likes flams.
Ask them.
Who doesn't like flams? Why?
I haven't really done them yet. To be fair.
You
Fair
know why
enough.
people don't like flams? Because they're hard. When does technique stop being important?
When it's no longer an issue. Simply,
That's a good point.
That's yeah. If you're trying to execute an idea, like be it just like out of a book or like you think of a fill or a musical idea that you want to execute and you can't get it, then either technique's an issue or just getting that's the sticking of the sound that you're the idea that you're trying to execute. Technique is getting in the way because you don't have the technique to play that yet.
Yeah.
So if you can play like 5 gigs in a row and every single idea you're executing is just flowing naturally, then technique isn't really an issue. Doesn't mean you'd have to stop practicing it because there could be something else come along and put you in exactly the same position. But technically it's still important, but it's when it stops being an issue is when that's actually technically a different question. That's when does the technique stop being an issue?
I have an answer to that. Since I asked the question, I was bound to have an answer. I'm gonna probably I told you guys, probably all of you, this story. Brian Blade once was asked, "What do you think about when you play?" And he said, "If I start thinking, something went terribly wrong." And this was his answer: 0. And technique is something that requires so much focus that you kind of need to think about it when you play. So my answer is to that question: when you play. Hopefully. Pretty on good. That's when it stops being important. Just play. Make it sound good. You know? That's it. Next. Surprisingly, this time I have a short answer.
Cool.
Which
Not
is what you said. But for me,
He'll go back to it in the next answer, no?
it's simpler than that. I can't. We are out of time. So next question. Next question. Do you need to, well,
That's technically no. It's just because there are loads of accomplished musicians who aren't specifically technicians. More in depth. No, I'd say this is a tricky one in terms of dealing with a technician. Related to whatever you're going to be playing, you need to have a certain level of technical facility and you need to be a technical chameleon to a certain extent, but it varies depending on what you want to accomplish as a musician. I mean, if you're just going to be in a covers band and be a covers band drummer, then if you have the technique to play all of the songs that you know and play every single night and can get gigs that way, then you're an accomplished musician. You may not have the same technical facility as a guy that spends ages practicing for his prog band that doesn't get out of playing it just in his city, and he's a better technical player and you're a more accomplished musician that way. So realistically, no, you don't need to be an accomplished musician.
yeah. That's it. Goodbye.
Cool.
No. No, he's right. Of course you don't need to be a technician, but here's another quote, another saying. There's only 2 kinds of drummers. Do you know how this ends?
Oh,
The ones
I've heard
that
it.
know rudiments and use them, and the ones that don't know rudiments and use them. So, You can't get away from playing rudiments. You can't get, and of course the first kind, the ones that know their rudiments and use them, I'm 100% positive they're being smarter in their playing, they're being lighter in their playing, they're being more efficient in their playing, they're being more musical in their playing than the ones that use rudiments but they have no idea what they're doing and everything is an accident. That's it. That's how we can just break it down to this. Musicians without technique play by accident. You know, forget to play by ear. That's what I call it. It's playing by accident. Just like sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's not. Hit and miss. And very rarely it sounds absolutely right. Very rarely. I mean, it's so rare. And then you have the guys who develop their technique, and very rarely it sounds wrong. It happens as well, because we are all flawed, like I said in the beginning, you know. Let's take this home. Starting from what's technique for? It's so you don't hit and miss. You know, you just hit. And that's what you want. So, no, you don't have to be a technician to be an accomplished musician. But this is a very cruel industry. There's a lot of people playing. And there's a lot of people pulling all the chops. There's a lot of people playing, you know, incredibly, almost acrobatic kind of playing sometimes. But at the end of the day, Steve Gadd is gone. It's done. He's still alive, but it's done. It's done in the sense of you're not going to be the next Steve Gadd. Okay technique, but a groove that, Jesus Christ, right? So that's why he became Steve Gadd. You have guys like, I don't know, pocket guys. You know that the English guy, Ash Sohn.
The guy that's doing all the session stuff at the moment.
Is the drummer for The Voice and the great pocket. I mean, seriously, great pocket. But everything he does is linear stuff and rudimental stuff. He's got everything down, man. All those how do you play proper ghost notes, man, if you don't have the stick height control? So I'm gonna say, like I said, it's a tricky question, but it depends on your standards and your goals, really. What's accomplished for you? What does it mean to you? Because to me, to play in a covers band, that's not it. Not to me personally, but to me, just all around me,
Yeah.
that's not it. If I see a guy playing in a covers band, that's a part-time gig. That's not an accomplishment. You know?
There are function bands though. People who
Yeah, sure,
make
yeah.
their living
Oh,
on cruise ships as
but
well.
they're pretty good musicians. I've met a lot of guys playing in cruise ships. That's a good example. I've met a lot of guys when I was traveling, when I was in Dubai and stuff like that. I met a lot of people who were in Dubai doing function work.
I've also met some guys in wedding bands though who just know the songs that they know. And like when I was at the Freddie G Drum Academy, not this summer gone, but the last one, there was this guy in a wedding band who didn't have a massive level of technical facility, but he was like, yeah, my schedule's fully booked up, because he was from Ireland, and he was just like, yeah, we're going around the country playing weddings. And he wasn't massively technical, he was there to learn as much as anybody else, but yeah, he was making a living, and he was enjoying it, and he was playing drums, so that's accomplished in one sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Again, it all comes down to what accomplishment means to you. Yeah, for sure.
in terms of if you just want to start an originals band and go and like be a rock star and be famous, that's probably also, it's not impossible, but
Well,
yeah, it's
Très Cool would prove us wrong, but or Lars.
those days are also kind of
I agree.
gone as well.
I agree. I think that
Yeah.
that's over. Yeah,
You can make it as a touring band, but it requires a lot of work and a lot of knowledge outside of just playing to actually get a band off the ground and take it anywhere on tour off your own steam.
Business and stuff in it as well.
Yeah.
A lot of business.
Advertising.
A lot of putting money into it and not getting a whole
But
lot
like
out for
any
a while.
business, what's the secret to make their first million? Spend 2 million. Hopefully, today was helpful in the sense of two different visions. Probably very almost opposite sides of the spectrum talking about the same thing today, which, in a way, it can be confusing when people don't debate like we did today. If we just go around and research, it gets confusing, gets a bit overwhelming, you know. Well, you know, just as an example, we saw today that literally nothing is an absolute truth, you know. Nothing. And that's the interesting thing. And if any of you related to anything we said today, I'm pretty sure that you're gonna, if you think about it now when you go home and stuff, what was said today, you're gonna find it somewhere in the middle. And that's kind of the message today, you know. Find your roots and go for it. Very important, go for it. Because if you want it, don't. Procrastination is a sin. If you want it, man, you want to improve your timing, you gotta sit down and play. You want to improve your right foot, you gotta sit down and play. Sit down and play. Sit down and play. Sit down and play. the answer is always the same. So,
Yeah.
closing statement.
Use a metronome. Brush your teeth.
In that order.
And other good
Use a
advice.
metronome to brush your teeth.
Yes.
Whilst
That's a good
brushing your
business.
Nice one,
That's a good
McGregor.
business model. Swiss Army knife with a metronome and a toothbrush. Were there any questions about anything?
No, and there's never questions, so I
There's
ask and then
never
I just keep
questions?
on talking because no one ever asks anything.
There's never questions, and everyone gets out and just like,
I didn't understand anything.
There's this one question that I really wanted to ask.
Get out, message him. Did you understand anything they were about today?
Time's up. That's gonna be my answer. Time's up. No, but questions, Thomas, No. Stan.
I have one, like, if you're like writing with your band and stuff, like, how would you go about it? Like, I'm not, like, would you focus more on like the creative side, or like start simple and then build up? Like,
That's a good question.
When it comes to writing with
like
a band,
originals and like.
It's a very good question.
well, the way I, in terms of writing, it very rarely comes down to writing specific parts. Like, I never go, okay, this is the fill that I'm going to do here, and this is particularly the groove writing there is, because sometimes only particular grooves fit the whole section, but fills I never really write fills. The last thing that I play and the last thing I think of is probably the thing that's going to go on the album. But when it comes to arrangement, guitarists and vocalists and guitarists mainly seem to have the be at the forefront of writing in bands, but as drummers we have a different ear for arrangement that is really valuable for songwriting. So yeah, never be if you actually have an idea how a song should go, don't be afraid to just pipe up because you're the drummer, and you may feel a bit stunted in they're going, oh yeah, the bit that goes da 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 da, and you won't be able to like say the actual scale they're playing on the part. But don't be afraid to put your voice in how you think it should be structured, because the structure technically does come down to the drummer. Like rhythmically, the block of it, we have a better understanding of how it goes. But so there's a lot of time in songwriting when the band that I've gone on tour with, I haven't written anything with them. They have their album and they came in and just like, you're going to play stuff, and I haven't changed a lot of stuff. But another band that I'm in writing, we're constantly going back and just going, either that's boring, that's done. And the approach to it is kind of just a live thing. I find writing sessions don't work as well as actually going in and jamming stuff and going, this section feels weird, let's play something that feels better. So my approach to it would be play it and kind of like try and make it organically, try and create it as you're going along.
Right. Not
Not so much create it as you're going along, just like, yeah, this is good, we're going to stick this in. But you have to approach it from a playing standpoint. If it sounds and feels fun, that's a better way to come at it than just sitting like with a structure, verse, 8 bars, chorus, 8 bars kind of way. So yeah,
Well,
that's what I'd say.
I know that it makes more sense, but I'm gonna answer this question as well for everyone else, because it makes more sense to you because of the musical background. But my background is very different. although I use the same kind of, I sit down and play stuff. I definitely go down the same road when it comes to, start simple, just kind of listen and then build it up, make it organic, like you said. But one thing that I know that sometimes is a bit confusing in the beginning is you build it up around what? Right?
That's
you know what I mean?
true. Yeah, it's probably rare that it's going to be built up from, well, not completely alien, but generally it gets built up around what the bands that I come from have to come from riffs or ideas, not drum ideas. Very rarely would it come from an idea on the drum.
In my case, never cared less for guitar riffs. It was all about the vocals. My case, my career. I played a lot of sessions and a lot more rock, pop, R&B stuff. It was all for the vocals. Trust me, you don't want to play in a band where what it matters is the vocals for the audience, right? It is what it is. The lyrics, the melodies, the rhythm of the vocals, that's what matters, and everything else is the support. And you start going, crazy with your following the keyboard riff. Because it doesn't fit. The keyboard is following the vocals, that's why it works. But as soon as you join that team, it's too much. So you need to find the gaps. And that's where you find the freedom to improvise, when you understand that. Every time I play, and you can ask any bass player, bassist, guitarist, keyboardist that played with me, they didn't know why I was playing that crash on that end of 4 or 3 or whatever. The singer knew, because it was right on that syllable. And they look at you and be like, right on. Because this is a strong one. And if you have that ear, you never get fired.
Cues can come from vocals, and when you are songwriting, regardless whether you start with lyrics or a vocal melody or start with a guitar pattern, when a new part is added, because at the moment
Needs to be adjusted, tweaked.
When it comes in, you may find, maybe the pattern that would really fit here for vocals doesn't currently go with where the guitars are going or where the whole band is going. So, regardless where you start from, a new part coming in is going to change things around a lot.
Yeah.
Mostly with the vocals, because they are the most important thing in any band. As much as you may think otherwise, they're at the front and they're what everyone's mainly going to be looking at.
And that's what being conscious and responsible is when it comes to being a musician. Any other questions?
Do you think it's good to know
Next.
music theory and stuff like that?
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Well, that one, I mean, we're both we come from very academic backgrounds. So.
Especially if you go to music college or if you go into a drum school where there's a lot of people and you do a lesson on reading and you can read and you go in and you see like patterns of da 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 da, and you just see it and you just be like, oh, da 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 da, and you'll do it, and then you'll hear people in the room playing it wrong. It'll just drive you insane, and you'll feel kind of a bit smug because you're above. If you practice theory, it gives you, especially reading, it gives you an advantage over other people that can get you a job in musical senses, in a musical term. Like, if you're asked as a drummer, like, do you read? There's going to be some people that can and can't, and the people that can't are instantly going to be taken away from that, and you're going to have a better chance. Like,
I believe that you should know theory, period. Reading, scales, harmony, melodies, key signatures, everything.
Because like even when you're writing, even as a drummer, if like diatonic harmony to writing stuff like that,
it's not gonna influence. It's not gonna influence what you're gonna write for your instrument, but it's definitely gonna influence the way you communicate with other musicians and makes a writing session way more efficient.
Yeah, like when I was
way more. Believe me, when we were talking, I mean, we've all been there, and you know, you're with the band and they start going like fiddly fiddly do fiddly. Shut! I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Talk music to me. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a big problem when people just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And you're like, you want to help, but bro, give me more than ping, ping,
Yeah.
ching, ching, boom.
Contextually as well, like guitarists want, if you go, oh yeah, that riff that goes onto the seventh and the sharp and that, they're probably not going to get it as if you like, then it goes to they'll talk like goes to the seventh and then they'll talk in terms of frets. So if you can communicate with the guitarist the way that they would communicate with each other, just like, how does that riff go, like that, or if you can even pick up the guitar and maybe instead of going like this, it goes like that, knowing another instrument and knowing where you kind of want to go, even if you can't like go as fast as them, but you can like play the notes and go, oh yeah, I kind of, what if it goes this way? It'll again give you another way to communicate with your band, and then you can all be more on the same page and it's just more cohesive. But that's in terms of theory, other instruments. Production is something as well that is a completely alien topic to some people, but my band relies heavily on production because it's like metalcore. It needs to sound is a really important thing. So the guitarist, the vocalist, and the bassist are all producers, and everything's electronic. So it can kind of feel, you can kind of feel like alienated and not a part of the band if they're talking in a language that you don't understand. But if you kind of get like compression and EQ and you can sit in and follow the train of conversation and have some input, then I don't know, the end product's gonna look something a bit more like what you want it to look like as well. It's gonna be a joint effort as opposed to just you being the drummer. That can kind of like, yeah. If you don't want to be seen as just the drummer and like more of an actual part, then you have to be able to, add something to the table other than just drumming in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
Learn everything.
Any more questions?
I'm just interested in how, if you can remember, I don't know when you both started playing, but
I can't,
in terms of
but I'll try.
getting your this foundation in terms of like maybe technique, so to speak, did you both have particular routines that you still stick with now?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
if so, what are they?
I did spend a while, and I remember that it was just, there was a routine that I still do a lot that helped me quite a bit, which is to isolate the hands. So I would have, a bar of 16th notes with the right hand, a bar of 16th notes with the left, a bar of unisons, and then the last bar being 32nd notes as singles. So that helped me a lot to develop some, especially awareness of what was different between my hands, just because if you can do that, and then that happens, when you go for the left, okay, there's something you need to fix, because that's not going to work when you play a single, so you can do like, and you try to make it match, especially on the unisons, because if you have that, something's going wrong. So really focus on, and then you can play the singles a bit cleaner.
That's when you know you need to take it down, because as soon as when you're playing, even now, you'll be able to play accurately and comfortably with your right hand or your dominant hand, and you go and play with your left hand, and you won't be able to go as fast with that hand. And that doesn't mean that the right hand is the fastest you can play that tempo. Say if that's 180 and your left hand can only go like 175 or something like that, you have to bring it down and say that's the tempo you can play at. But your right's always going to be stronger than your left if you're that way inclined. Not all the time, you can be ambidextrous, but the slowest limb is how fast you can play, not the fastest, because that's where you can. That's where it's going to be even and comfortable.
But there was one, of course, singles that was on paradiddles, for sure, like as a sequence, Just play that for eternity. When I was starting, that was pretty much it. The unisons one, or there was another one that was introduced to me later on, which was 8 strokes per hand, and then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go up again. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
That's
a nice
also
one.
that's also an interesting exercise when you take it around the kit. So do 8
Yeah,
hits.
and I do that.
Each time.
And we
each
do that.
time.
Yeah.
You know, everyone who's my student has done this around the kit. Because that's the warm-up routine.
And then you get.
All right, let's wrap it. Do you have any questions? Sure. All right, let's call it. It was 2 hours instead of 90 minutes.
That's fine. Does that mean they have to pay extra or?
Of course. That's why I'm saying it.
Cool. Turn them upside down. Start shaking the pennies out of the drums.
You know, if they're drummers, we're screwed. You said so.
Yeah.